Welcome to Community Roundtable. I'm your host, Henry Huang. Our guest today is the Honorable Monterey Park City Councilwoman, Betty Tom Chu. Councilwoman Chu was born and raised in San Diego, California, and her dossier contains impressive accomplishments. I'm just going to name a few for you right now. She was the first female founding CEO of a savings and loan in the nation, also the first female Chinese lawyer in Southern California, and founder of the first Chinese-owned savings and loan, including East West Savings Bank and Trust Savings Bank. Councilwoman Chu is also vying to become the first Chinese American woman to be elected to the Congress, representing the California 32nd District. Welcome to the program, Councilwoman Chu.
Thank you for inviting me this morning, Henry.
Please tell us why you want to represent the people in the 32nd District.
Well, as many of the people do know, I was a latecomer in the race because I was more interested in running for city council. During the time that I was running for city council, there were many of the residents, including the two people who talked me into running for city council to begin with and also to run a second term. They were worried about what was happening with the economy. Every week, the economy deficit in the national budget was continuing to grow. California was beginning to exhibit deficits. And yet, the people that were the front runners for the congressional race were our legislators who participated in the deficits and who also have voted for the tax increases. Now it has gotten so bad that the focus still is on the economy, but now it has to turn on to jobs, jobs and jobs in our community.
Right. Now, you're talking about the economy. I know right now that's probably the number one thing that's facing the nation right now. As a Congresswoman, you have the power to initiate change in that. What would be some of the initiations or plans that you have?
Well, you see in my background that I graduated in the field of business from USC, and then I started the two banks. But in addition to that, when I was an attorney and was with the Department of Corporations for several years, I reviewed all sorts of business plans, financial plans, I reviewed operating statements, and I was able to see clear pictures of what companies would succeed and what companies would not succeed. And so that is the backbone of our economy, is our small business viability. And nowadays, so it has turned to where the small businesses are being hurt so badly that people are losing their jobs. And that is going to be my focus. Originally, when I first started running, my financial background is strong enough to be able to get to Congress and say, hey, the way that you're spreading the stimulus dollars to the bankers and to the insurance companies is not the right way to go. We could have solved the problems, and you have a background in banking, Henry. You understand that there were other ways to resolve the problems of the foreclosures without giving big stimulus dollars to the banks that seem to have disappeared and have not helped the residents in our community. There are ways of stretching out the loan, lowering the interest rate to market, working with the investors so that the government is going to guarantee the latter portion of the extended period of the loan. That lowers the payment for the residents, and it keeps them in their homes, and it keeps the neighborhood values up. So I think that my financial background is very strong as compared to my opponent, because not only have I reviewed these, I have been in operations, in banking, I have been in business. I know what capital investment is, I know what risk is, I know that you need underlying capital to secure the viability of the companies and not to overextend oneself. I know about regulatory environments in business. So I have the background to be able to go to Congress and say, this is going to help our businesses grow, or this is not going to help our businesses grow. We have to make it so that our employees, our residents, our employees will return tax dollars back to the federal government. The businesses will make a profit to be able to pay their taxes, and it will generate growth.
Right. And given the wealth of experience in the financial institution, as you know, people say it's the financial institution this time around that brought down the economy. What are your plans or advice that you can give to the American people when if you elected to the Congress to reform this institution?
You know, I really think that the background of why we got into this horrible economic mess is that people don't understand, including the congressional candidates as well as those in Congress, is that you need to generate the income coming in before you can spend. Albeit that there are people that we want to raise their standard of living, but you cannot do that on the backs of others that cause the people that risk their capital to generate wealth in this country. We can't risk their going down, because when they go down, then everybody goes down. Let me give you an example. I sat at the Federal Reserve Bank's Advisory Commission with Alan Greenspan when he was chair. And he had a Consumer Advisory Board. And I sat on that board together with ACORN. The emphasis of ACORN was to make sure that their constituency, which is the persons with lower income levels, it was their desire to raise their standard of living. But in so doing, they ignored the other portions that came in to generate the wealth. So we have, in our banking business, we had standards within the Community Reinvestment Act and regulatory enforcement, which forced us to make loans to people that really couldn't afford it. And then it just got way out of hand when the secondary markets came in, because they found an avenue to pass the risk. But they kept on passing the risk without making sure that the loans were well underwritten with existing regulations. Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, and the secondary market caused the greed that continued to grow to where we forgot the focus of banking, which is to make sure that the investor got a fair shake, but also that it provided the capital for those who could afford it within the rules and regulations.